Today Bitcoin has pumped 10% on the leaked US regulation news. This changes things in the chart, guys. Luna pumped, and Ethereum pumped, Solana pumped, and yes, even Cardano pumped a little bit. But is this the last dead cat bounce before the market nukes because the world has gone bonkers? Or is now the time to FOMO back into your favorite projects? I have reached a clear conclusion on that, and I'll share it with you in this video. But first, something even more important. And what could that possibly be? I'm going out with my wife.
I'm the brightest person in the whole Stockholm.
And my team member.
Our people would appreciate it.
Still cold. My wife has a lot of success with her work, so we're celebrating that.
Yeah.
And CTO office also doing fantastic.
Let's go celebrate today.
You know both from these two videos. And what could be a better way to celebrate than with Vietnamese pho?
Pho. Look at my lips. Pho. Pho.
Pho. Pho. Pho.
Pho. 80% right. Try again.
Pho. Pho.
No, that's worse.
Pho. Pho.
You need to open the mouth here, not like pho. Pho.
Pho.
That's better. 89%.
I often don't take lunch breaks. I can easily work 10-12 hours because for me work feels like play. But now, why are markets pumping to begin with? It's clearly because of this statement that's been interpreted as positive for the crypto industry. And in a place with so much disinformation, let's check if it's actually legit. Yes, this was at home.treasury.gov, captured by the Internet Archive earlier today. Let's first read it a little carefully and see what it actually says. President Biden's historic executive order calls for coordinated and comprehensive approach to digital asset policy. And I think it's the next sentence that made the market very optimistic. This approach will support responsible innovation that could result in substantial benefits for the nation, consumers, and business. It will also address risks related to illicit finance, protecting consumers and investors, and preventing threats to the financial system and broader economy. And I think this is significant because there has been statements, for example, from Gary Gensler, where he said things like those who are pro-innovation, kind of insinuating that you can be against innovation. And here it says, will support responsible innovation. But much of the rest actually talks about financial stability risks. And they repeat this several times. I think that many in the traditional financial system see especially stable coins as a potential competitor, a potential threat to the traditional US dollar. And of course, given the ongoing war, they for sure want to help identify that illicit financing isn't taking place to evade sanctions. As global citizens, I think there is something else positive here also. They write, digital assets often have important cross-border dimensions, so we'll work with our international partners to promote robust standards and a level playing field. I interpret that as mainly positive, but I'm sure there's also an element that they start feeling the competition from countries like El Salvador that's attracting suddenly a lot of talent, a lot of investment, and is giving the US real competition to where blockchain companies are now being established. If you didn't see my video where I interviewed the El Salvador ambassador here in Sweden, where she talked about the great success they've had in El Salvador, definitely watch it here. It was very interesting. At least I thought so. Now, regulation is very important. I am very old, so I was around when the internet was kind of new, or at least the adoption of it. If we would go back then in the 90s and tell everyone that today in 2022, when we look at the largest American companies by market cap, out of the 8 biggest companies, there is only one, which isn't a tech company. We have Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Google, Amazon, Tesla, Meta, Facebook, Nvidia. If at that time the US would have chosen a different path when it comes to regulating the internet and they had clamped down hard, 7 out of the 8 biggest companies in the US today would not have existed. Those applications and those companies might still have happened, but they would have been established somewhere else, not in the US. I've refreshed my memory a little bit. It was actually the Clinton administration that was responsible for regulating the internet at that time. I'm sure they couldn't in their wildest dreams imagine that it would become this significant, but here we are. I've been part of 3 technology revolutions now. Crypto is the 3rd one, and I'm certain that it will be the exact same thing this time. If we fast forward 20, 25 years into the future, it will look the same. Practically all the biggest companies in the US and in other countries would not have existed if they regulate crypto in a way that they push that industry into other countries. There's actually a great article today at CoinDesk about the similarities with the internet regulation. And what did the Clinton administration do 25 years ago? Number 1, they highlighted innovation, and they also realized that government attempts to regulate are likely to be outmoded by the time they are finally enacted. I think that was a great insight. Imagine if the US had introduced some hard regulation a couple of years ago, and then came DeFi. They wouldn't have forecasted that. Regulation wouldn't have been fit. The next point is also key. Where government involvement is needed, the aim should be a simple legal environment. Crypto startups want clear rules. And for example, in the US, there is a securities regulator. Then how come that regulator can't answer which of these coins are securities and which ones are commodities, like gold? If those 100 lawyers who work there can't figure it out, how can we expect a 19-year-old programmer who has a brilliant idea? How should he know better than those 100 professional lawyers? I feel that frankly that's unacceptable. There needs to be clarity to the participants, or that 19-year-old will not dare to execute on his great idea. The genius and explosive success of the internet can be attributed in part to its decentralized nature and its tradition of bottom-up governance. I still remember when people asked questions like, who is the publisher? Like in the newspaper, there is a responsible publisher who makes sure that the things that get published is okay. And who is then the editor on the internet? And then when the answer is that no, everyone can publish whatever they want, people went mad. Information is very dangerous. Legal frameworks should be facilitated on a global basis. President Bill Clinton acknowledged that the internet is a global marketplace. And the very core of Bitcoin is that it's global money on the internet. So of course we need some kind of global alignment for this, which was key to make the internet such a success. So let's hope that the interpretation of Secretary Yellen's statement of President Biden's executive order with words like support innovation are correct, and that they don't feel so threatened that someone is coming and competing with their money and we need to stop them, because that would be very sad for not only for the US, I think for the entire Western world. Make no mistake, Bitcoin and blockchain is not going away. Regardless what they do here, they would just delay it and move a lot of innovation into other countries. The second part I'm fine with. I've lived in 10 countries, I'm happy to go live anywhere, but it would for sure also cause a delay and a missed opportunity for global growth when the world really needs it. But what does this mean for the Bitcoin chart? It is potentially significant because frankly things looked pretty grim yesterday. We were rejected once, we were rejected twice, we were rejected 3 times, we were rejected 4 times, and yesterday it frankly smelled like a dump. And then came this news. So if we reset and look at the blank chart for a moment, this can really become one of 2 things. Wicks like these ones are sometimes not that significant in Bitcoin. Price can move really fast down and then straight back up, or up and down in just a few minutes or hours. It doesn't necessarily mean that much. So I still think that one possible interpretation is that this is a double bottom of sorts, 1 bottom, 2 bottoms, and for that to become a double bottom we need to break above the high between them, approximately 46,000, for this to become a double bottom, an ugly one though. Another interpretation is this: if we disregard the wicks and we just look at the candles, we see that we have 1 touch point, 2 touch points, 3 touch points, 4 touch points on this diagonal line, and then this is a horizontal boundary. Again, if we disregard the wicks, then we actually get a picture perfect ascending triangle here. But again guys, don't trade patterns before they have confirmed. This might morph into something something completely different. This confirms only if we break the neckline, and since we had these weeks out, I would feel more confident if we leave those behind as well and cross up here at around 46,000. An ascending triangle is not super reliable in a downtrend, but if we get this and we manage to hold this trend and LARSSON line turns back up here, that would really be a dream scenario. Then I would feel extremely confident with a bullish bottom pattern in the chart, trend turning back up, and a clear horizontal boundary where we could buy in and put stop loss below, risk very little on the downside, and have exposure to the upside if this really takes off again from here. Before we go into the altcoins, if I could please ask you for a favor, that would be to please like, subscribe, and press the bell. The YouTube algorithm isn't my friend, so it would really mean a lot to me if you find this type of content useful for you. Now, if we go to Ethereum and look at the ETH to USD chart first, we could start drawing symmetrical triangles like this, wait for a breakout, and so on and so forth. But I really think that's a mistake. What is driving the market now is not what's happening with Ethereum or BNB or Solana or any of the other altcoins. What is driving the market right now is Bitcoin, and Bitcoin alone almost. So if Bitcoin takes off here, ETH to USD will follow. If it breaks on the downside instead, ETH to USD will follow it down. So for Ethereum, I think this is the right chart to look at. It's ETH to BTC. If we for a moment switch to the daily chart, I will show you this. Either this is a range and we're looking for a range break. The first breakout in December failed, but there could be a second one that succeeds. The second interpretation is that this is a running channel, because look, we have quite many touch points here actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if that's the case, we're right on the boundary here. So if this bounces for a fifth time, that would of course be very positive. For now, I'm looking at both these interpretations. And for Ethereum to motivate the long-term buy, we need to break out on the upside. If it's a range, it's around here at 0.08. If it's the running channel, we're already up here somewhere. It would need to cross above 0.09. That of course would mean that we miss some of the upside here, but I already have some Ethereum, and it's more important to me to not lose money on the downside than to catch exactly the whole move. If this really starts running from here, we don't need to worry that we miss a little bit in the start. There will be plenty of gains for everyone. And the same is true on all the other altcoins. BNB is in a range. Solana has been ranging as well. The only one that isn't ranging, that's actually doing something interesting, is Luna. If you haven't seen my Luna video, I will link it here. I think it's very interesting. And here you see it so clearly. This was resistance, resistance, resistance. Then it broke through, it retested, this level was support, and it bounced. I did mention this in my Luna video, and I hope you saw it. If we instead look at the USD chart, we don't see that in the same way. Here it looks like it hasn't reached the horizontal boundary yet, but on the BTC chart it already has, and it has already broken out. Now of course, if someone is sitting with USD and thinking about Luna, no point buying here because you wouldn't know where to put the stop loss. The traditional way would be to buy at the breakout and put stop loss below instead. So if we summarize Bitcoin, then we're still in the middle of this construction. LARSSON line has not turned up yet, but what has changed is that we bounced on this boundary instead of breaking down. And that is significant. I'm very excited for what will happen next. I will of course share it with you here on the channel. Please like, subscribe, and see you in this video next. Thank you, tack. CTO Larsson out. Hej då!